Sheldon Primus.
Welcome to the Safety Consultant Show with Sheldon Primus, where we blend safety smarts with business brilliance and a pinch of Sheldon's signature wit. Whether you're a safety pro, a fresh-faced consultant, or just safety curious, get ready for a show that'll educate, entertain, and elevate your safety game. Let's dive into the art of consulting with your safety Sherpa himself, Sheldon Primus.
This episode is powered by Safety FM.
Hey gang, how are you doing? Welcome to a special version of the Safety Consultant Podcast. I'm your host, Sheldon Primus, the podcast where I teach you a lot about the business of being a safety consultant. I teach you about OSHA compliance. We learn a little bit about safety and health. And today we get to talk to my good buddy, the hop nerd himself, Sam Goodman, is here in person in his house.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? In person, man. Love it. Thanks for having me. Well,
yeah. What do you say? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming over. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so how did that one work, right?
Thanks for coming to my live workspace.
Yeah, there you go. That's like me. Every place I go, I'm like, I'm not an office guy.
No. I learned that a long time ago, that if I have to drive somewhere to do the things that I want to do, I do less of the things that I want to do. So the nearer I can keep the things I enjoy, the better.
Yeah, that is the truth. I honestly, I keep telling people I'm unemployable at this point. I feel like everything is so good being on your own. You get your own time, and I know for those of you listening, honestly, that's a good thing when you could say that. But you got to do the grind and just go and be happy doing the grind too. So I'm not going to disparage anything, just me right now. Yeah. It's kind of hard for me to go back to an office. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I think. So there's this thing where I half jokingly tell people that I don't have a real job, and I couldn't imagine having a real job right now at this point. And what I mean by a real job is that exactly what you're just describing, like the ability to do your own thing, chase the things that you know are most valuable, pursue your interests, flex your creative muscles around the things that relate to what you do. Yeah. You don't have that same freedom, right, in a lot of corporate America, at least the corporate America that I come from.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Like it, love it, great stuff. But for me, I'm with you. I think it'd be really, really, really hard to try to go back to something like that. Now, with that said, though, it's also the hardest freaking thing I've ever done in my life.
Yes.
So you were kind of hitting around that a little bit.
Yes.
You will find no worse boss than yourself.
That is so true, especially when you first get started. Well, hold on, not when you first get started. For me, I actually had to train my brain as to, I have too much freedom. I can't just watch TV and, just hang out and work whenever. So that took like a good 2 months or so. Yeah. And then I had to, get myself scheduled. And after you get yourself scheduled, you'll find out because you don't have a set schedule, you're working on weekends, you're working at nights, you're, when the family's doing stuff, you're squeezing in, I'm almost done. Yeah. I'm almost done.
There's a benefit to that in the sense that I was going to say you could get it caught up. I don't know that you can ever get it caught up. I've come to realize that it never gets caught up.
Yeah.
But you can front load things and buy yourself time, and you're creating a lot of times your own deadlines.
Yeah.
Right. So you can do things to where you end up saying, all right, I'm going to actually lock myself in this little room for 16 hours today. But for the next 3 days, I'm just going to be home.
That's right.
And so that's the part that early on, and even now, I continue to always struggle with, is I am a workaholic. And I'm a workaholic because I love what I do, and I'm passionate about what I do. But I'll also catch myself doing that thing where it's like, oh my gosh, it's been 18 hours and I haven't eaten in 2 days.
Yeah,
and
kidding. What is that, son?
What's happening? Where am I? Who am I?
Yeah.
Right? Those kind of things. So I think what you described before is really a huge key to that, is figure out what that schedule looks like. I'm not the best at it. I'm probably one of the worst at it because I will find myself, especially when my family's off doing something else, instead of maybe doing the thing where you probably should plant your butt on a couch and put your feet up for a minute. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got 2 hours. I can go do more work.
I could be more productive.
I can go make something. I can go do something else.
Yeah.
So finding a bit of that schedule has really been helpful for me too, as much as I can. I don't know that balance is the right word. It's probably overused a bunch.
Yeah.
I think it's finding out how you blend those two adequately.
Yeah.
Right.
There's balance, but for me, I know I go with the creative flow, if you would.
Yeah.
So if I'm feeling like I'm in a good, especially when I was like doing my courses and doing the video to go with the courses, I had to wait till I was feeling good enough to have some energy for video, because you need that. You can't have a video that's boring, because people are just going to turn you right off, and you're a YouTube person as well, especially with Darrell.
He's probably running around here somewhere. That's once. Don't say it 3 times.
Don't say it 3 times. That's right. Because at that point, you got to have some energy if you're going to do that. And if Darrell comes around and you got no energy, you might end up getting locked up in safety jail.
Yeah. Well, that's so true. I never thought in a million years that I would get a lot of questions from a lot of different people all over the map, from other folks that do consulting to just folks that create stuff, internal or for fun or completely non-safety related.
Yeah.
People ask me about like creative process a lot, and they ask me a lot about like, well, what's the logistics of making something like that? And I don't have a really good answer, because the only answer that I tend to use is when the idea comes, you go make. And so I think your point's spot on. Like, you've always got to be at least somewhat prepared, or at least willing to caffeinate at interesting times to go when the idea comes. I've thrown this stupid quote around, and it's not a direct quote. It's a very loose quote from a really unknown author by the name of Stephen King, that loosely put, and there's much more to this quote, but he said something along the lines of, a writer's notebook is where great ideas go to die. Meaning that if you're super passionate about an idea, like if you get hit with this thing, you're like, oh my God, I know what Darrell needs to do next.
Yeah.
If I write it down, the likelihood of me making that video goes to like 0.5%. But if my cameras are already charged and my lights are already kind of halfway set up, and I can go out there and start shooting in 5 minutes and just make it.
Yeah.
Even if I don't edit it, which I struggle with that, because then I will then lock myself in the office for another hour at midnight to then edit.
Yeah, do your
because I want to see what it looks like.
Yep.
But just go. Right? Just go and create it. When the idea happens, just run with it. I think
go with the energy.
I think most people that are trying to create things overthink more than they underthink. They probably need to do less thinking, more making.
That's true, because honestly, everyone is caught up with perfection.
Yeah.
They want to make it, perfect, and they want to hit the algorithms and all that stuff in order to get it, and they miss the spontaneity of the moment. But then also, there's a little fun about the raw and real, that you're going to end up missing if you're going to try to script. You have to do an outline, obviously, just so you don't go nuts. Some of us aren't that good. We still need outlines.
An outline would help, and I do create outlines from time to time. At least like loose thoughts, right? Like a loose couple bullet points of this happens, type thing. If I created more outlines, I would spend far less time piddling in front of the camera, which would probably be good. Right? Because then you just I got the idea, but I run with it. I haven't totally thought it out. And I record 45 minutes worth of footage for a 15-second video, right, type of thing. But there's a benefit to that too, because to that kind of spontaneous, in the moment kind of thing, a lot of the stuff that you see like Darrell talking about, and especially the things that people are like, oh, that's hilarious, that stupid thing Darrell said.
Yeah.
That was never outlined. It was never written. It was that, right? So it's probably
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle
Yeah.
between ideation, right, and then actually shooting. I probably should have a couple more bullet points just to save me some time.
And it'll help you with, I guess, flow too.
Flow, yeah.
But it's since you're doing a character, and the character is based on the obscene stuff we see in the field. You got any stories of the field stuff that drove the character?
Yeah, well, first, I have to set the record straight. I am not Darrell. Darrell is, you can call him a character, but he certainly is a character.
That's right.
But yeah, people have been confused for a very long time that
I
I'm
think
Darrell.
they've seen you two together at the same time.
I post pictures all the time, and people still don't believe it.
I
But
don't believe it. Yeah.
there he is. The funny thing about that, though, is so all the stuff that I shoot with Darrell,
Yeah, let's get it right.
there's nothing that's been created that is not based, sometimes loosely, but based on real life events. So names, identities have probably been changed a bit to protect the not so innocent. But it's all based on stuff that I've lived at some point, in the safety profession, right? So I think about like the one of the ones that people really love is his wacky, wavy, inflatable tube-man costume video.
Yes.
So he's basically sitting in his office and he's going, my God, it's been a week. We need to come up with a brand new safety campaign. What will people think if we don't roll out a new safety something every single week? We need a new slogan every week.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of normal thing that he goes after. And then all of a sudden he gets the aha, I've got it moment. And he's out front of the facility at the turnstile at shift change, dancing around to techno music, screaming at people about staying more safe and paying enough attention, type of thing.
Yes.
Real story. Like, that's not fake. Like, there was a place that I will not name that I worked at, where one of the senior safety executives in this organization basically came up with this idea. Again, this is not exactly what it was called, but they wanted Safety Man. Right, and so Safety Man was this inflatable character. They sent out crates of these to all the sites, and
It was just
leaders got to be Safety Man in front of the gate for the day, and they handed out pastries and coffee and balloons and told people to be safe.
Wow.
And all of our workers walked past us going, "Look at these idiots!" God, yeah, and they were right. They were 110% right. They're like, stuff in there like can electrocute me to death, and you want me to dance at the gate? That's what do you think keeps us safe? Yeah, sure, man.
Yeah,
Good job.
we'll do it.
whatever makes you feel better about this whole thing.
Yeah, it's comical and it's funny and it's sad at the same time because honestly, the psychology of safety, a lot of people don't know. Yes, this is something that you would try to do in order to get the workers more engaged, and sometimes you have to prove worker engagement in order for you to get your ISO 45001 or to get your VPP for a voluntary protection program, for those of you that don't know. And once they prove that they have worker engagement, then they could get to that next tier, and the ideas for worker engagement doesn't actually mean you're finding things safe. It just means that you're now playing the clown almost in the workplace.
Well, instead of taking the far more useful and sometimes, I'm not even going to say that it's that much harder, and it is far less embarrassing action of doing things with people rather than trying to do things to them. I mean, if you want real engagement, right? Adult relationships with the people that work within your organization and like actually involve them in the things that matter.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to build a something and that something impacts their work, guess who should have a seat at the table?
Yeah. No kidding.
Probably the person that has to live with whatever it is that you're making in some conference room far, far away. That's real. That's real engagement, right? That's real engagement. That's real involvement. We end up with a bit of the theater, though, which is the inflatable Safety Man, Tube Man costume, right? Or Darrell dressed up as a banana because it represents slip, trip, and fall awareness. And the way you don't fall down is just pay enough attention. You can't die if you pay enough attention.
That's right.
Right? We mistake that for engagement. And don't get me wrong. If I'm walking into a site and somebody's giving me a free coffee, I like it.
That's
I love
right.
it. I got to have more of it. But we shouldn't pretend that that's interchangeable with true
Yeah.
engagement, true involvement, right?
True involvement.
I think that a lot of times we see that, right, where it's, well, we just need to tell them, we need to show them, and how do we show them? We'll shock them.
Yeah.
We'll shock them by, I don't know, putting up a dunk take out front. You can throw stuff at your boss, type stuff. And it's all fun and games, right?
Yeah.
But so many of those situations, like that one or any of the other stuff you're going to find with Darrell, or any of that kind of cast of characters that lives in Darrell's workplace, it's taking these things that are probably a bit more middle of the road in our actual application of them, and then running them to their most extreme case.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where I think, personally, that's where I find humor in it. It's like, yeah, we do it. It's not really all that bad. But if we really lived up to what we're trying to do here, we would all be out front wearing an inflatable costume, screaming at people about safety.
And then believing that it works.
And then going back to corporate and patting ourselves on the back.
Yes, we did it.
Man, nothing bad can happen now.
That's right. And it's funny because you'll see, the real science, again, I'm saying that term, but honestly, if you're trying to change behavior, you got to figure out what's the motivation. If you don't talk to the people, you'll never know their motivation. So you're just guessing.
You're just guessing, right? It's all in the same line. I mean, we could go so many videos, right? From posters to the front gate thing to return to work stuff. All the stuff that Darrell tends to get involved with, right? Kind of down that path. But no, you're exactly right. I mean, this idea that workers somehow have to be told that things in their work environment kill them. I discovered really early on in my career, like if I go out and I spend time with a lineman as an example, and I'm like, hey, don't touch that. It'll electrocute you. The very next words out of their mouth are going to sound something other than maybe a few profanities on the front end of that. Mm-hmm. It'll quickly be followed up with, what are you going to do? Dude, tell me not to stare at the sun next? Like, I know. Give me something a bit more useful than that.
Yeah.
I think that's what people are mostly looking for, right? They want to be involved. They want their hand on the wheel a little bit. Yeah. Like, if it impacts my job, I should have a voice in the process. Yep. All that stuff that we tend to shift from doing stuff to doing stuff with, that's a huge change in what engagement looks like, because I'm not just going out there and telling you to try harder now. I'm asking you what you need. Yeah. And we're going to sit down and figure out what you need. And my job as a leader then is to resource that and to figure out how we can make that happen. You know best. You do the work. My idea was the tube man. Maybe more than likely, not just maybe, you probably have a better idea than Darrell screaming.
That's all I got is a tube. What do you got?
That's all I got. I got bubble wrap and a megaphone. That's well, what am I supposed to do with this? And then they're going to say something that says, like, I don't know, buy tools that work. Yeah, no, not the tools that work. We're going to stick with the tube man.
That's right. I'm going to spend my money in these safety dollars.
Yeah, we're gonna buy more coffee cups for the prize closet instead of tools. Yeah.
So when you get to, because you're an active consultant as well, so you get to these organizations and their numbers drive the organization. If their numbers go down, they feel like they're going to either lose a job or they're going to get off on the ISNet World list or a VETA list, and now all of a sudden their EMR, experience modification rate's so high they can't get a job, and they're just scared that the next incident is going to truly either get them kicked off of a site or something else. Yeah. So their reaction is, I need to control, and I got to control my workers. I need to control them so they don't do anything wrong. How do you break that addiction? The addiction of thinking that your action is going to cause these workers to do something different.
Yeah, well, there's this thing, right, where we think we control. And that's probably the truer way, right? Opening their eyes to maybe that there's this thing, I think, in organizations where we think that anything that happens within the confines of our gates, somehow we have magic control all over. And beyond that, we have magic control over the world sometimes. Yeah. I was like, we can change everything. Well, can you though? I mean, that's always the first interesting question, is how much control do you really have? How much of that means something, and how much is that you just thinking that you've got it? that's always a really, really interesting place to start. You know, I spend time with, I guess, what we would describe as client organizations and contract organizations. So I spend time on both sides of the fence. In my real job life, when I had a real job, I spent time in both sides of that fence as well.
Yeah.
So I know the relationship from both sides. I have trophies somewhere in this attic, looking up for people that see this, that say things like, "Great job. You got us to zero through creative case management," right? Like those kind of things. It's like, it's just a toe you lost. We can get you back to work.
That's right.
It's not going to affect your normal job duties. It's fine. For a lot of the reasons you just described, right? That we tend to see the way that we have interacted with our contractors in the past as being this thing that's just completely numbers driven. If you get a little bit too much of this, then sorry, you can't work here anymore. A couple really weird things that I always struggled with there is that, first, it always disproportionately affects small mom and pop local contractors more than it ever affects the big boys.
Absolutely.
So we got mom and pop down the street. We like using them. They bend over backwards to take care of us. They do amazing work. We might even actually live next door to them. But because they have 5 employees, and my God, Bob tragically got killed on driving a work truck last year, you will never work here again. So now we're going to hire out somebody all the way from the other side of the country that's a megacorp that's basically going to be calling a call center to get any feedback on the projects that we're doing. That's way better, obviously.
Yeah.
So it always works out weird. From the client side, or from the contract side, as you described, you end up in this weird dance of how in the world do I keep these numbers low enough while still learning, while still figuring out, while still not discouraging or trying my best to not discourage reporting.
Yeah.
Because if we're not working, none of us have to worry about safety. We have nothing to worry about then, except for I'll see you at the unemployment office, right? I'll see you down there.
You'll be the safest unemployed people ever.
Right. So I think what's really interesting to me, what gives me a little bit of hope, is a lot of the client organizations that I work with, they're changing that. Not all, but at least ones that are maybe going down this more humanized approach to things. They're looking at that and they're going, that number doesn't really tell me the whole story.
Yeah.
They have 5 employees. That was awful. And I knew Bob. And when Bob wrecked that truck, it hurt everybody. Like, it sucked. Is putting that company basically out of business the right move? Is hurting them more than they're already hurt the right move? Is that number really telling us much of anything? And a lot of those companies are starting to change the way that they pre-qual contractors, the way that they manage contractors over time. It goes back to some of that more involved thing that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Instead of me client, you contractor, it's more of a we thing that they're starting to discover.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the norm in our world yet. That's certainly not the norm, but I look forward to the day when it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the market and the insatiable need to make sure you protect yourself from litigation seems to dictate what happens on boots in the ground safety.
Yeah.
And the workers are the ones who capture the brunt of it, because now they're being treated like kids and not treated like adults, because if they don't follow your rules the way you said it, that's a violation, and here you go, you're getting a safety violation. OSHA doesn't care about that stuff unless it actually is a violation of OSHA's rules. Does that mean you're managing risk? Probably not.
No.
You're just showing some sort of control over the worker. And if the worker makes a deviation because they're trying to reduce risk and they still get written up, you're going to just get people who are going to be compliant with their rules, but they're not going to take action when they need to.
Or I won't call it worse yet. I'll probably just say factually that they will show you that they are in compliance. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are in compliance with the rules, because now you strip me of my ability to tell you where the rules don't work. You strip me of my ability to say, like, okay, you made those 10 golden, and something went a little bit weird in a confined space the other day, but I can't tell you now, because if I tell you, you're going to dig and maybe find that we bent a little bit of a rule there, and instead of learning, you're going to fire. So
Yeah.
actually around those rules, the golden rules as an example, the things that maim and kill people within our work worlds, that's usually what that short list is. Now those are the things that we know the least about. Because you can't say anything or the hammer's coming down.
Hammer's coming
The
down.
hammer's coming down, right? It's just no questions asked. There's no context, no understanding, no even trying to understand. It's either yes or no. And there's not much in our work worlds, and there's certainly not really anything, I think, in our world that boils down to a simple yes or no a lot of times.
Yeah.
There's always something more interesting there. And when we just kind of gloss over that, we just step over all that interesting bits and we just land on, well, you bent it, you broke it, you're gone. It feels like what we're really missing out on is the opportunity to understand, learn, and improve. And that's the stuff where we really start to see significant return on our investment, right? Is
Yeah.
when we start to say, okay, you know what? Yeah, you kind of broke that rule a little bit there, bud. And that's probably not great. But it had to make sense to you. So help me understand how it makes sense to do that. And when you start to peel back those layers, you start to hear things that sound like, well, actually, we always kind of have to bend that rule because the rule doesn't work very well in that situation. And then on top of that, it's this kind of wink, wink, nod, nod thing where kind of everybody knows that they have to bend that rule because just short of maybe the safety box turning from green to red, the other one that's, I'm going to say neck and neck with it, is the production box. And if the production box turns red, back to all of us being out of a job. Or some of us getting fired. We got to keep those boxes green.
Yeah.
And with that rule written the way that it currently is, that just don't work. And you discover the wink, wink, nod, nod. And as long as the outcomes are good, our organizations tend to go, great job, you're following the rules.
Great job.
As soon as
Here's
the
the safety
outcome
buck.
shifts, though, right, then we go, that's definitely a you thing. You got to get out of here.
Yeah. The responsibility for the organization always goes to worker first, and then maybe our policy isn't good.
Well, that's always the really interesting part, right? That's the part that I find so wacky about what it is that we tend to do, is that a couple things here probably. I'd be interested in what you see with this, but a lot of times, especially early on in organizations before they really start to shift things around, you'll discover that success is always a we thing. Like, good operational outcome, we did that, meaning the executives and our managers, and then maybe our employees.
Right? They helped a little.
They helped a little. That's a we thing. But as soon as something goes wrong, it quickly becomes a you thing. It's not a we thing anymore. That's an individual failure.
That's right.
Simply put, it's an individual failure. But I think the real wacky part is that we tend to lay all that at the worker's feet. When so often the worker, and I would say pretty much always, the sharpest of the sharp end worker has the least amount of influence over any of those things. They don't have influence over the condition, the context, the setting in which they work. That's farther up. They don't have influence over the rules in many organizations. That's farther up. They don't have influence over production targets, goals, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on.
Even the equipment they're using.
Exactly. The schedule, the budget, they have no control over any of that, while at the same time, they also possess the highest amount of operational knowledge. They know how the work actually happens. But when things go wrong, we say something like, well, should have tried harder. Instead of maybe looking a bit deeper, going a bit wider, and going, well, I don't know that worker necessarily caused failure as much as they experienced failure, as much as they found themselves as the last person that touched it. At the very end of a long line of problems and issues and setbacks that for the past 20 years, they have navigated successfully. They have created success out of all of our mess. But now this one time that they didn't, shame on them.
Yeah, it's like the
Shame on them.
it's like when your kid goes to school and they end up getting hit, they get the teacher sees them hit the kid, and it's like, hold on, they've been bullying me for a full week.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
just actually hit me. I protected myself, hit back, and the second hit is what the teacher sees. They don't
Yeah.
see the first one, and then
Yeah.
your kid gets expelled
So true.
or
That's
suspended.
so true. We experienced this with our daughter some years back. Right, it's a random side story.
Go ahead. I love these.
But she was always raised that you don't put up with a bully.
Yeah.
That's how I was raised. I don't know that turning the other cheek to a bully is always the best path forward.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bully has to be shown that they're a bully. And I'm not condoning violence, especially amongst children. This isn't Kitty Fight Club or anything.
What's the first rule?
Yeah. But I always just kind of told her, I'm like, you always stand up for yourself. That doesn't mean you put hands on people. That doesn't mean like you wrestle with people, but you always stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
And if somebody's being mean to you, you tell somebody. And if they keep being mean to you and they do nothing about it, you stand up that much taller, and you stand up that much taller, and you stand up that much taller. You always stand up for yourself. And so I got a call that she punched a kid in the throat.
Wow.
One day. This was like first grade, right?
Oh my.
And I'm like losing my mind. Like I'm going into dad mode. I'm like, she knows better than this. Oh my God, the same thing that we're describing. Like, why would she ever? I could never in a million years understand. I'm too far away from it. It's the same thing we see in our organizations. We get too far away from it. The farther we get away from the work, so much easier it is to judge the actions of others. The actions we had nothing to do with, the work we had nothing to do with, from our office perched far, far away, up the tower. Right? It's so easy without understanding to judge the actions of others. And so once I finally get to the school, though, and she's sitting there, and the teacher's doing this is completely inexcusable, we never condone it, and then she tells her story. And that's the story that we need to understand in these situations we're describing.
Yeah.
She didn't just punch a kid in the throat.
Yeah.
5 seconds earlier, the kid put her in a headlock and threw her on the ground. And a few minutes before that, the kid kicked her.
Wow.
And a few days before that, she had told the teacher. And a few days before that, she had told the teacher again and again and again. And it finally got to the point to where she stood up tall enough that she's like, you're not going to put me in another headlock. And she punched this kid right in the throat. She got to the end of the line of her good choices. Right? So she probably made the best choice that she could out of nothing but bad choices.
Yeah.
When you take into account the context. Now, the thing that I promise you is that kid never put her in another headlock. That never happened. And by the time we left the school, she wasn't in trouble. Right? She wasn't the one that was in trouble.
Yeah, the teacher, aka supervisor, had some culpability.
There's a little bit there, right? The story's always more interesting than they just randomly punch someone in the throat.
Absolutely.
Right? Are you going to find every now and again that somebody does, just for the fun of it, punch somebody in the throat? Sure.
Yes.
And should you deal with those people appropriately? Absolutely. Of course you should. There's clearly markers within our world that we know. They are so far outside of the bounds of our accepted behavior. We know those things. That's life, that's work, norms, right? We know those things. But almost always there's more. It's never that simple.
Yeah.
When we stop at this thing that sounds like worker did something dumb, can't fix stupid, right?
Yes.
When we stop there,
I hear that all the time.
I know it's like opening a book to the first page and like reading like error or stupid worker or something like that, finding those words on the first page, and then circling those and highlighting those, and then closing the book and putting it back on the shelf and pretending that we know the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Like that's first page stuff.
Yeah.
Like punched in throat, that's first page stuff. Machine broke down, that's first page stuff. Somebody messed up. Well, of course they did, because we're all human. We mess up constantly. That's first page stuff. You're not going to find all the interesting bits and the plot twists and the context and the character arc. And you're not going to find all of that stuff on the first page.
Yep.
You've got to read the rest of the book. And so that's what I would encourage people to do, is when you look at it and you go, my God, that person's got to be stupid.
Yep.
That's the place where you really need to dig deeper, because the odds are against you if you think that they're just stupid.
It's the whole phrase of, why did they do what they did when they did it for the reason they did it at the time they did it?
Exactly. I promise you, almost always it made sense.
It made sense to that worker to do what they
It
did
made
at the time.
absolute
They did
sense.
it for the reason they did it.
Our
And
job
you gotta
post
figure it
event is
out.
to understand how it made sense.
Yeah.
Because if we can understand how it made sense, because these are awesome people. Like, we forget that sometimes, I think. Maybe there's something there. Again, the farther we get away from work, the more maybe we forget it.
Yeah.
But these people are brilliant. And they're creating success almost always. They create so much more success than they ever create failure.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but if our employees were just creating unintended operational upsets and outcomes constantly, we wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
In fact, they are mostly successful at most things that they touch. That's what we're good at as people, is figuring out, adapting, getting it so wrong that we figure out how to get it right, breaking it 6 times, but then fixing it, and then, getting it even more right after that.
Yeah.
We forget a lot of times just how amazing and brilliant they are. And we have to assume that there's noble intent there, because there almost always is. You start with noble intent until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
And if you go down this idea or go down this path of seeking to understand, truly trying to understand, to develop a bit of that industrial empathy, right, where we can see ourselves in their shoes. If you go looking for that, you pretty much always find it.
Yeah. I like that industrial.
Yeah.
So let's say industrial empathy.
Yeah, so I think,
Ooh.
now if I'm not mistaken.
That's a t-shirt.
Well, it's not mine, so I'm going to give credit where credit's due here. If I remember correctly, it comes from Bob Edwards.
Really?
So if I remember correctly, so if I'm
Still a t-shirt.
If I'm attributing this to you, Bob, and it's not yours, sorry, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whoever it
Put it in the
actually
comment
is,
box.
you can point it in their direction. Then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I love that term. That's what you're looking
That's
to
a
develop.
great term. I like it too. So when I steal it, who do I attribute to? Now I got to
I'm
figure it
thinking
out.
Bob.
Bob, you're it.
Tag Bob.
That's right.
And then Bob says, that's not mine. Then we'll sort it out from there.
That's right. Man, I teach roughly 2 to 250 students a year with teaching them how to be certified as safety professionals. So I only have a week with them, and I'm trying to break some of the old habits that they have, especially the unfortunate people who are safety managers in turnaround jobs. And for some of you that may not be familiar with that, is when there's a planned shutdown and you have many contractors on the site and they need to get everything done and get refurbished equipment and all the other things so that there isn't any breakdowns that is unplanned, because that's more money. Yeah. So you'll have a site full of subcontractors, and some of them are really good. Some of them, they just want to get the money and get out, because there's a lot of money in turnaround work in a short amount of time. And some of the people, they do that pretty much full-time, turnaround to turnaround to turnaround, and it's chaos. And site safety is usually the ones that are responsible for writing people up. And I tell my students all the time that I'm not a big fan of safety writing anyone up, and I prefer you to hold people accountable by talking to the supervisor. And when the supervisor sees it, then the supervisor takes action. And it's not you in safety writing them up, it's a supervisor going ahead and holding them accountable for whatever action it is coming from their frontline supervisor and not from safety. You're one step removed, so you could still be trusted. Am I steering people wrong with that?
No, I don't think necessarily. No, I think so. My approach flexed over time. The situation that you're describing is near and dear to my heart. Now, I didn't work in the turnaround space. I worked in the outage space, which is it's the same dang thing.
Yeah.
Right? Turnaround ended up kicked around, I think, a little bit more in oil and gas.
Yes.
And so I worked in power gen and power maintenance for a number of years. So I started in the outage turnaround space, really early on. So I came out of fire and EMS, and then took a gig in the nuclear world doing nuclear outages. Not in safety originally. I went straight into the craft world, hands-on work that I know and love to this day. And I remember how some of that would play out, though. Like when you would see a certain safety professional coming your way, the bird calls would happen, and people would start whistling, and the radios would go click, 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 click.
Anybody have a left-handed screwdriver?
And you're going, everybody just stop. wait till they get this out of their system, and they'll go back to their office the rest of the day. Just chill out for a minute, and then we can get back to work.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right? You can get back to work after that. But then there were others that would come around, and people would like smile and light up, and then they would get excited to talk and to share. And the biggest thing that I found in the difference there, though, was that the one that you would get like the bat signal, the safety signal that would go off, and everybody would like stop, everybody freeze, right?
Yeah.
Those were the folks that are coming out there to write up either directly or indirectly in some way. They're coming out trying to find what you're doing wrong, just for a simple way to put it. They were coming out looking for unsafety. The folks that would come out and people would go, hey, they're here, glad to see you. Those are the folks that were coming out to try to support safety. And I think those are two different things.
Yeah.
Right? So we go out and we get into this cycle of and I've done it too when I found myself in the world early on in my career in safety. I was in a very traditional organization, and I was basically a field tech, right, at that point, which means here's your clipboard, go find everything that people are doing wrong, report it to their supervisor, and get it fixed, right? That kind of situation.
You're a hitman.
In that world, right? You're a cop. You're basically a cop at that point. Give me a badge. I'm ready to go, man. You know, and I found myself the recipient of those calls and those clicks. And I really quickly decided that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to show up and ask people what they needed.
Yeah.
I wanted people to not dread seeing me coming because they thought, my God, they're here to slow us down. They're here to get us in trouble. They're going to go and report this up the chain and not even give me the opportunity to fix it. Right? They're going to observe and report. They're going to Paul Blart it. Right?
Yeah.
They're going to take some notes and some pictures, and I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it in tomorrow's stand down.
That's
and
right.
I'm going to be the reason for the stand down.
And the pictures.
And
They're
the
gonna
pictures.
post
The pictures
pictures.
are going to be there, and I'm not going to be in them, but everybody's going to know that that's my job. There's something there about honey, vinegar, and flies, right? There's something in there about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what I changed really is I wanted to be the person that they knew when I was showing up, I was coming to help.
How did you do it?
When I showed up, I focused on curiosity.
Okay.
I didn't roll in there acting like I'm the safety man. Like I didn't roll in there with like a rule book. I didn't roll in there with the clipboard. I didn't roll in there with the camera around my neck. I would roll in there with a question that sounds like, that's really freaking cool, teach me how you do that. And you'd be surprised that how much more interesting things you discover when you start with more interesting questions.
Yeah.
Because if I'm being real, hey, why are you not wearing your gloves is a really boring question. Like that's about as boring of a question as it gets. And it gets even more boring when it's just a statement.
Yeah.
Wear your gloves. All right, that's even worse, right? Or if I'm starting with a checklist that sounds like, are people wearing their gloves? It's very limiting as to what I can actually discover about that word.
Yeah.
Because even if I ask you that question, even if you are wearing your gloves, or it looks like you're following the rule, and I say something like, you always wear your gloves, right? Or you always follow that rule, yeah? You guys follow that rule. What's the only appropriate answer?
Of course I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even when it's no. Yes is the only answer that I can give you.
That's right. You're leading the witness.
Exactly. Well, and there's just, in our organizations, we give no room for any other answer. Because if you say, oh, well, no, I don't follow that rule. No, I'm in trouble. I can't tell you that. But if I'm curious, and even if I've done that work, and some of that work I've done with my actual hands, they did work at some point. And I kind of know how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And it's looking like it's not going how it's supposed to normally go. But if I show up, and I show up assuming that you know what you're doing, and I show up devoid of judgment,
Yeah.
and I show up, even if I'm not, at least acting like I'm green as new grass, and I'm going to be your apprentice today, people love teaching you what they do for a living. There's no way you do something for a year or 30
Yeah.
if you don't kind of like it. Right? And they want to show you that stuff. They want to teach you that stuff. And when you pull some of that pointedness out of those questions and you are genuinely curious, you can't fake it because they can smell that from a mile away.
Yeah.
But if you are genuinely curious, they will show you. They will show you what works well. They will show you what works not so well. They will show you where that dumb rule that you wrote, and it's going to hurt when they stab you with this, but how that rule is the most stupidest thing that's ever been invented and how they can't follow it.
That's
and if
right.
you would have actually talked to them for 5 minutes before you wrote it, you would know that they can't follow it. They're going to show you that stuff. But you never get there with, hey, why are you doing that?
Yeah. They'll clam
So,
right up.
I'm not anti, I guess, to come back to your actual question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not anti supervisor involvement. I'm not anti any of those things. But I don't know. I always viewed that relationship with a real, and this is a strong word and maybe too strong, but with a big streak of it being sacred. Right? That relationship is more important to me than anything, because if I don't have that relationship, I can't effectively do my job.
Yeah.
And if it's going to sour that relationship for me to go grab your supervisor when me and you can just fix it, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
But we got to actually fix it. Like, it can't be like we're going to pretend to fix it. If it's on me and we need to fix the rule, I'll take that.
Yeah.
We'll fix that. But we got to actually fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, to some organizations, that feels like a naughty. Oh, you got to. I get it. But again, for me, just me personally, that relationship is the power of what we do. If you don't have it, you're not going to do much.
And most people, if you just take the time, talk to them, everyone's favorite topic is themselves.
Of course.
So they'll talk to you, and if you ask the questions humbly and say, hey, what's the most stupidest rule that I have made or safety is making you do? And they'll tell you if you're honest.
They will tell you.
And then at that point, that's your relationship. You'll start having a give and take, and they will actually talk to you, and then that will reduce risk. And when the risk gets reduced, then at that point you have the possibility of eliminating a hazard or actually, addressing how you control the hazard.
Well, exactly. I mean, what you tend to see happen there is you get to know more. You get to tap into operational information that you did not have before. And the thing is that whether you're a frontline leader or a middle manager or even an executive, or whether you're a safety pro, you need good information to make good decisions.
Yeah.
If you lack that operational information when you're writing rules, if you lack that operational information when you're drafting that procedure all by yourself, like we get stuck sometimes in a room, like, I don't know, we need it by tomorrow. Safety person, you're here. You can order lunch on your P card. Don't spend over $10, right? That kind of stuff. We're writing those things lacking the information that we need to create effective things.
Yep.
When we're looking at improvement strategies, that's why so many of them fall flat, is because we're not actually tapping into that learning that we require before we start trying to improve things. We're taking our best stab at it. And as a safety pro, our best stab is not operational, it's safety. And the problem with that is ops still got to happen.
Yes.
Right?
Ops will happen.
Ops will happen whether you like it or not, because again, whether we like it or not, most organizations aren't in the safety business.
Correct.
They're not making safety. They're making widgets. They're making power. They're getting the turnaround done. That's the business that they're in. So when we lack that information, though, we're not balancing out that right. We're not involving, we don't have that operational information that we need from the people that actually possess it. That's not colored into our procedures. That's not colored into our rules. That's not in the job plan. That's not built into the schedule then. And that stuff seems to compound over time.
Yeah.
It grow and bloat into this kind of bureaucratic mess that we tend to see. But if you grow that relationship that we've been describing, and when people get comfortable sharing that information with you, you're going to find stuff that's going to sometimes absolutely blow your mind, like peel your scalp back, like, right? Was it the Maxwell cassette tapes with the guy on the front?
Oh yeah, that's
Remember
right.
those? Yeah, it's that, sitting in the chair,
Yeah,
it's like
sitting in the
blowing
chair.
your hair back. Like, you're going to get some of that
You're
information.
too young for that.
No.
How do you know that?
No, not too young for that. My first recordings were on a tape-driven task cam, man.
You know that you have to take the pencil out and reel it back and line it up.
I hope that I'm older than I look.
Oh, that's great. Sorry, gang. We're truly just
We're
nerding out at
reminiscing
this
about,
point.
about recording songs off the radio on Maxwell cassette tapes, right? So I can listen to it again.
That's right.
But you're going to find those things that are really, really, really in need of improving.
Yeah.
Not all this is low hanging fruit. Not all this is easy answer kind of stuff. So you got to be prepared to hear.
Yeah.
I would not go out and do this if you have a really big chunk of fofo in your life, fear of finding out. Like, you got to want to know.
Yeah.
And if you are actually exercising your curiosity, like you're really leaning into that, you're going to want to know.
Yep.
There's this thing that we do with information as people, right? Where we say that's good information, that's bad information, that's strange, that's weird. But that's not really true. Those are just labels.
Yeah.
It's just
filter.
information. It's not good or bad. It just is.
Yeah,
it's
but
just
you filter.
information. That's what you need. You just need raw and real information. And so as you tend to grow that relationship, as you start to ask those interesting questions, as people start to understand, oh, wait a second, safety folks aren't out to get me. They want to help me. They're here actually trying to help us be more successful.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. And then as they start to give you this information, you actually help them do something with it. You don't run off with it and then just very poorly fix their problems for them that leave them in worse shape, right? You don't just run off with it and then put it in the stand down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You actually connect them with resources and stuff that will help them shape what that condition looks like on the ground. Yeah. They see their lives, they feel their lives getting better. They know that not only can they trust you with the information, but they can trust that you will help them do something about it. They're going to bring you more and more and more and more. And I think for me, the thing that I always found most interesting about that is at a certain point, the information gets really real.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they're not afraid to tell you that last week they almost died.
Yeah.
And that's a scary conversation. But that's exactly the conversation we should be wanting to have with our employees.
Yeah.
I don't want you to feel like that thing almost killed you and now you can't tell me. I want to know where those things exist so we can do exactly what you said. Yeah. Is it something that we can eliminate? There's serious injury and fatality potential in that thing. We can't get rid of it. How do we reduce the energy down to where it's survivable when things go wrong? Because it's going to go wrong. How does it not cost you your life or your arm? How do we do that? How do we do that? How do we do that together? That's where those conversations eventually lead. But if we stop at the surface of, you're wearing gloves, right? Yep, always. We never quite get there, right? We never quite get there. We've got to outgrow this idea that we're enforcers and understand that we're actually enablers. We want to enable people to be successful.
Yeah.
And if our processes, our procedures, our rules, our approaches are slowing them down, making their lives miserable, and making it really hard for them to actually get their work done efficiently, and then on top of that, we haven't created an environment where they can share with us their frustration around those things.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Right? There's a lot going on because you're dealing with humans. So when you get those confrontations, you're going to get releases of cortisol. And when cortisol gets released, it gets to fight or flight. And then you become safety cop. Safety cop is going to trigger that behavior and trigger that mindset. So you got your trigger thought behavior. And if that cortisol gets released, that fight or flight, you're going to be, it's going to do like a nice little neuro connection that says safety equals fear, safety equals fear, safety equals fear.
Of course, yeah.
So you're going to have to work hard to get them truly liking you enough and knowing that you're good to release the oxytocin that says safety equals team, safety equals team.
And look, like they don't even have to like you.
Right. Trust you. How's that?
Yeah. If hey, you like me is a byproduct, I'll take it.
No, yeah.
But what I want you to know is that you can trust me. I'm here to support you.
Yeah.
I'm here to learn from you and improve things with you. That's a big shift from I'm here to quote the rules and do those to you.
Yeah,
that is a big shift, right? That's a massive shift because exactly what you said. You land in this space of fight, flight, fawn, right? Where you're just like, you can't help it, right? We've been conditioned to kind of get those butterflies as soon as we see somebody in brand new work boots and a polished shirt coming out in the field.
Yeah.
We're like, I know they don't do this for a living. What are they going to do to me?
and the pink hat that you give them,
Yeah.
so you can shame them even more.
What are they going to do to me now? Not again. They just changed everything last week. What are you going to do to me this week? It's terrible. Right? And when we start talking about things like accountability and things like that, a real major problem with that, that type of relationship, a parent-child relationship is what that is, right? When we have those type of relationships, or when we get into this thing where we're misappropriating disciplinary action, right? We're not digging beneath the surface to understand how that rule bend or well-intended violation, which those exist, that mistake, that error, we're not understanding how all that stuff made sense and all the context that led to that probably being the best decision you could make in that moment. And then so we discipline somebody for something that, if it's an error, something that they didn't intend to do in the first place, hoping that it stops them from doing it again, which is wacky, right? That doesn't work. When we're doing all that stuff, what I do when I walk away from those interactions now is I am now a victim. I walk away from that and I am a victim at that point. And a victim lacks all accountability because you're doing stuff to me, whether I like it or not. Even if you think it's what's best for me, you're still not asking for any level of consent from me. You're still not involving me in any bit of this. You're still not growing this relationship. You're still not applying any of the things that we've talked about. And you walk out and you say, well, look, I know your safety glasses were fogged up, but I don't care. It's rules is rules. So here's your write-up. I'm a victim now. I'm less accountable, not more.
Yeah.
So accountability is not something you can do after the fact, right? It's something that you grow beforehand. So the relationship, the curiosity, understanding how things make sense, involving people, empowering people, putting their hand on that wheel, as we've chatted about just a little bit, involving them in learning, not only learning from them, but learning with them, and not only improving us building things as safety pros, but putting them at the table. Help me build it. You're the one's got to live with it.
Yeah.
Help me build it. Excuse me.
That gets them invested too.
All those big questions that we tend to try to answer later, that sound like accountability and ownership. If you involve right out of the gate, some of those questions start to take care of themselves. Because it's really hard for me to not have ownership of something if I was sitting at the table and built it with you.
Yeah.
That's hard. Now, if you said, hey, I come up with this brand new safety manual, and now you get to follow it.
Yeah.
I have very little, if any, ownership of that. And then when I thumb through it and it's ridiculous, I have even less ownership of it, because then I know when that thing sinks, I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to say, ha, I told you so. You made me the victim.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So,
And your safety, like I had one client where one of the first things I do when I'm taking on new clients is look through their written programs and stuff and see if, work Imagine is work is performed. And I remember once seeing their rally point for emergency action plan is saying, we're going to rally around the big oak tree. And I was like, all right, is someone get written up if they don't know which oak tree?
Yeah.
Is it one of those things where now in an emergency, they're looking for a tree that was diseased and it was mulched?
It's gone.
It's
the stump. We all know it's a stump now.
We all know it's the stump
the old
now,
oak
don't
stump.
we?
Yeah.
That kind of just the programs itself, they're made in such a way that some people, they don't even see that in their safety manuals it's a template, and they'll say put the title here, organization here, and it's in brackets, and no one ever took the time to put their company name on that. And then when the workers see it and they need to follow this to the letter of the law, and the workers are seeing this incomplete junk, they know that it's not going to work, and no one asked them about it. They're going to be set up for a fall.
Of course. And then we go, my God, how could you be so stupid not to follow that? All right, it's ridiculous, right?
I told you to follow
I told you to read it and follow it.
You signed off that you know.
You signed the mandatory acknowledgement at the beginning of it, so I know. I even have your social security number.
That's right.
Right, yeah, it's that stuff. Plans, policies, rules, procedures, I think that's great stuff. Programs, all the stuff that we think about that goes into a really well-functioning safety management system. Handy dandy, good stuff. But plans, rules, policies, and procedures, if you want those to work really, really well within your organization, build them with the people that have to use them.
Yeah.
I mean, from a safety person's perspective, and having been the person, as probably anyone out there that's done this for more than about 5 seconds, I have been the person that has got the action that says within 24 hours you are going to write 14,000 procedures, and you're going to do it by yourself with no support. We get that stuff all the time. Yeah. That happens to us, where we have to find a free conference room. My God, hopefully there's one, and then we lock ourselves in there until we spit out whatever we need to spit out because the organization is demanding that we spit out this new procedure on tying shoelaces.
Isn't that what ChatGPT is for?
Something nowadays it's probably a lot easier.
That's what Chat's for.
Yeah, yeah. But even from just a basic like what's in it for me perspective. Well, number one, like people are going to make the rules much easier to follow.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be based on operational reality. All those kind of big questions that we're talking about before tend to get baked in if you're involving folks in that. Right. There's ownership there because I helped you write it.
Yeah.
You didn't do this to me. We did this together. Right? That's pretty handy. But then just overcoming what we just said, I can't think of any safety pro out there. If you've written a procedure and you've not had several moments of going, my God, I don't know what I should put here. And then you're like down the Google rabbit hole of like, okay, that sounds good to me. Right.
Yeah.
Either you've not done this long enough, or you probably need to rewind and go, maybe I don't know as much as I think that I know. All right, that's probably, if you think that you know, you probably don't, right?
That is correct.
It helps us overcome that part. Right? There's this thing that it actually makes our job easier because I don't have to come up with all the answers. Because first off, I don't have all the answers. And I don't know all this stuff. I can tell you how it fits in here and how this works here and regulatory this and what this means there and what this typically looks like and what I've seen over there. And I can give you safety brain. But it's hard for me to give you how this works in the real world brain because I don't have to take that procedure and then still go make widgets with it.
Yeah.
But the person that has to take that procedure and then go make widgets or make electricity or drive that truck or move all that stuff from this side of the warehouse to that side of the warehouse by tomorrow, they know how to navigate that. And so if we build their voice into it right from the beginning, a lot of the stuff that we find, maybe on the earlier part of our conversation, why in the world are you not following the rule? We start to change that stuff right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Because it's real, it's realistic. General rule of thumb, does it make life easier or harder? Typically, if I have to live with it, I'm going to try to make it easy to be successful. And that should be what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
How do we make it easy to be successful?
Now, there's a current of mental health, and I want to mention this because, of course, this is September. For those of you guys that are not knowing when we're recording this, is September. This is the month for suicide prevention and mental health awareness. The current of everything we're talking about here, the pressure that the workers are feeling can cause those workers to get into despair. And in construction, it's absolutely epidemic right now with suicide in construction. But the general psychological safety of workers have been challenged because of all these undue pressure. What's your take on psychological safety as a whole, and then obviously suicide in construction and some of these fields because of the pressure the workers are feeling? What's your take on the mental health of the industry?
Yeah, I think so. Psychological safety to begin with. I tend to avoid stringing those words together just because it's become such a buzzword now. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. The true concept of psychological safety is wildly meaningful within our work worlds.
Oh, yeah.
The problem with it becoming a buzzword, just like when anything else becomes a buzzword, is we print a poster that says we are now psychologically safe. And then as soon as you tell me something I don't like, I'll fire you. But I have the poster.
That's right.
We like to say we're psychologically safe. And then we start to come up with wacky ways of trying to measure how psychologically safe we are, even though we're not. Right? Because I got the posters, so I'm going to count how many posters I put up about how much you can tell me stuff. I even wrote a rule that says you got to tell me stuff, because if you don't tell me stuff, how am I going to fire you for breaking the rules? And then if I find out that you didn't tell me stuff, I'll fire you for not telling me stuff. See, psychological safety. We try to do that stuff. We do this thing where we take really, really, really good things, meaningful things, and we put it through the corporate meat grinder that simplifies it down to, well, I wrote a rule that says you're now psychologically safe. Right, so we've got that. So a bit of a rant, I guess, right at the beginning, right at the beginning of that, to just say that that's an environment that you create, that you have to lead up to. You have to prove that to people. It's not just something that you can say. It's not a poster that you can put on the wall. None of that stuff works that way. And if you stick with it as a buzzword, it becomes a poster.
Yeah.
You got to live up to those key ideas. Now, to me, there's this really interesting thing, because we've been talking about really dialogue within organizations. It's been a lot of our conversation. Gaining access to the vitally needed operational information that we need as leaders and safety professionals to make good decisions, good operational decisions, and that our organizations need to meaningfully learn and improve. Meaning that when we actually go to improve stuff, it doesn't make things like 100 times worse.
Yeah.
And the improvements actually tend to work from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
Those kind of things. But with this information piece, and we struggle with information within our organizations, the biggest thing that we tend to really struggle with, the thing that stands in our way of gaining access to that information, is silence. Now, silence is a big, scary word, and we know that, especially in our jobs, that after sometimes even short stretches of very, very deafening silence, bad things tend to happen. Almost always. Like really tragic, catastrophic things tend to happen when we can't free flow that information within our organizations. So silence ain't good. And I broadly state a lot, anytime that I get a chance, anywhere that I get a chance, that anything that creates silence in our organizations is bad for us.
Yeah.
It's bad for us as leaders. It's obviously bad for our employees, by God. Right? Probably leading into some of the second question that you were asking. But it's bad for our businesses overall. When we can't really talk about the truth, even when that truth is unsettling, even when that truth, it's at the exact wrong time that I need to hear that.
Yeah.
Right? When we can't hear that, we can't innovate, we can't improve, we can't get better. We struggle. We struggle without that information. Now, with silence, though, we always have to understand that as people, silence is our neutral position. And this leads directly into this idea of psychological safety, that as people, we move towards silence because silence, at least in its immediate sense, is safe for us as individuals. If I don't open my mouth, I can't look like an idiot. If I don't tell you about that time that I almost died, you can't fire me.
Yeah.
Right? If I just shut up, I won't get judged, I won't get blamed, I won't get beat, I won't get any of that stuff. And so at least in the immediate sense, it's safe for us. Now, in the long term, right, problems fester, they get worse.
Yeah.
Right? Pain points, problems, issues, they never get better on their own usually. They tend to fester, rot, and grow. Right? So that's bad. That's bad. But in the immediate sense, we're safe. We're safe. We're safe right now. Now, the other side of that, though, that I tie in a lot of my conversations around, again, I won't say the word psychological safety, but words. The next piece of that for me around silence is this idea that people will only tell you what you allow them to tell you. Even if you have a rule that says they got to tell you stuff, that rule means basically nothing.
Yeah.
Even if that rule says, I'll fire you if you don't tell me stuff. Because now I'm thrust into this negotiation, a negotiation between self and everybody else. And I'm going, okay, well, I know my intent. I know I wasn't trying to cause problems. I know that I was trying really hard actually to create success, but I had a bit of an event and nobody saw it.
Yeah.
But I know the history here. When people share events like this in this organization, now they're certainly not fired for reporting it. Never, 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 right? But they'll find a reason.
Yeah.
There'll be a rule. Because I know if you look hard enough at anybody's job, you're going to find that somebody made a mistake.
Something was broken.
Somebody bent a rule. Something went a little bit sideways. And so now I'm having to negotiate this choice to report or not to report. That is the question, right? To report or not to report. Do I, as our organizations will tend to frame up this way, do the right thing and report the event, even when I know after I do, it's going to be blame, shame, retrain, fired. Somewhere in that wheelhouse, right,
Yeah.
of really painful reaction to the event. Or do I just keep it to myself? Maybe I keep it to myself, fix the problem, get the work done, and this work might have even been important. So then instead of blame, shame, retrain, I'm going to get this critical work done. You're never going to know about the event. And because I got the work done, you're going to give me praise and pizza for getting the work done. And you'll never know. You're never any wiser that things actually literally caught on fire like an hour ago, but I put it out and you don't know. So this idea that people can only tell us what we allow them to tell us is really important, because I hear a lot of organizations say that they have something along the lines of a reporting problem. People won't tell us stuff.
Yeah.
They won't tell us stuff. They won't report events. They won't share this information with us. It's always a they thing, the mystery they, right? And usually they live closer to the work. But the funny thing is it's not a they thing, it's a we thing. If people can't tell us the truth, it's because we haven't created an environment where they can. If I'm having to choose between doing the right thing, reporting the event, and then being jobless versus it wasn't that big of a deal, and the risk of me getting fired for not reporting this event at least gives me a chance of not getting fired. I know which one I'm picking.
Oh, yeah.
I'm picking, you're never going to know about it. So when we hear things that sound like people can't tell us stuff, when we hear things that sound like we only hear about events if they're big enough for us to hear about them, we certainly don't find any opportunities where people tell us that, like, that rule doesn't work, that procedure doesn't function well, or I have to break that, or I have to bend that, or I almost died last week. We certainly don't hear any of that. It's pretty much always because we haven't created an environment where people can make that kind of noise.
Yeah.
People can't tell us that stuff because if they do, the consequences will be extreme. That should be an easy decision.
Yeah.
And it's on us as organizations to make that decision easy. Writing a rule that says you have to isn't making it easy. It's just letting me know, my God, look at what you would do to me if I don't tell you. Imagine what you do to me if I do. Like, that's even worse. You're probably going to, like, put me in one of those stockade things and throw tomatoes at me and then fire me. So I'm sticking with that one. I'm sticking with silence. So this whole idea to me, and it even gets into some of this idea around human and organizational performance, right? To me, when we talk 5 principle stuff, when we talk about leading with those, when we talk about all that stuff, to me, what we're really chipping away at is creating an environment where we get to know more, creating an environment where we can actually learn pretty deeply and then do something with that. So if you want to spend time focusing on psychological safety, that's probably a really good thing, but you got to mean it. And you got to understand that if there's a problem with the flow of information within your organization, it's rarely, hey, they just won't tell us stuff thing. It's almost always, I can't tell you stuff thing. Because if we want to get into some of what that definition is, it doesn't mean warm and fuzzy. It gets misconstrued as that sometimes. It doesn't mean like group hugs and playing bongos in the middle of the conference room, burning incense. It doesn't mean all that stuff. I mean, that's cool. That sounds like a fun place to work. What it means really is that I can extend that information. I can tell you stuff even when it's scary and inconvenient. I can stick my neck out and share that information without the fear of you lobbing off my head. I know that you are going to appreciate that I share that information, that I am not going to get just axed.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I can say, I messed up. I made a mistake. We always been that rule. And it worked well for the past 25 years, and now it didn't. It didn't. And I know that when I share that with you, we're not going to go down that blame, shame, retrain cycle. We're not going to go down the I'm going to preach at you thing. You're not going to put me in timeout. There's not going to be any of that stuff. But what we're going to do is we're going to do something useful with the information. Work went well for that long. Let's understand how it went well. And now let's understand how maybe it went not so well. And let's make it far easier for that work to go right. That's the other side of it, the action side of it, which I think sometimes we don't have enough conversation about. If I bring you information and I'm taking on the risk of bringing you information, and that is always a risk. Anytime I open my mouth, it's a risk. And maybe you don't panic, meltdown, freak out, throw a chair at me or anything. That's fine. But then that information just goes away and dies, and things just stay the same. That's almost, not quite, almost as bad.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm still probably not going to bring you more stuff.
Yeah, they're going to internalize that as well.
Of course.
And then that's going to fester, and that's going to cause them where they're not going to feel comfortable with you as an organization.
Of course. And so, there's this thing for me, right? So one of the main, well, not main, I don't know if there's any, I don't really put any order on them. But I would say probably one of the most useful hot principles, especially early in trying to humanize your approaches to this kind of stuff, if you're trying to create that environment in particular that we're discussing, is this idea that how we respond matters.
Yeah.
And it matters a lot. And if we think about it in this frame of react versus respond, like a reaction is way different than a response. A reaction is almost always emotionally driven.
Yeah.
It's almost always meltdown, freak out, panic. It's almost always cross my arms and sigh and go, well, my God, why'd you do this? Right? It almost always sounds something like that. And especially when things go wrong, and even maybe when work's going well, but things got a little sideways, any time that somebody's reporting something to us, that's such a critical juncture in our organizations, such a critical touch point. Because what happens is, I'm testing you if I'm bringing you information.
That's right.
If I bring you and say, hey, I got a boo-boo, and then I get the chair over the head, right, and then somebody punches a hole in the drywall, right, I'm never telling you about boo-boos again.
We are done.
We're done. Never happening again. It's this, I like this idea, and I share it with leaders a lot, is that the way that I respond today determines how much I get to learn tomorrow. So when somebody brings you something like that, even if you have to take a pause and go, thank you for the information, give me 5 minutes, and you have to shut your door and cuss at God, go outside and smoke cigarettes. I know that's super unhealthy, but whatever. Whatever your coping mechanism is to calm down before you just, against somebody, do that. And then make your first words curious words, not judgmental words. Walk me through that. Help me understand how this happened. Not, why in the heck would you ever? That never works well.
Yeah.
Make sure that interaction always goes well. It should go well. People are already hurt sometimes. On top of that, they're already terrified because they're bringing you information that they don't want to have to tell you because they know you don't want to have to hear. And then you prove them right. Prove them wrong in the best possible way. And guess what people are going to be more comfortable doing every time you do that?
Yeah, they'll open up
Telling you
more.
the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, the scary, the weird, and everything in between. And that's what we want, right? That's what we want.
Wow.
Yeah. So, rambly mess around psychological safety, but
No.
I think it leads maybe to some of your other comment, with the importance of this month and kind of all that stuff. I am not a mental health expert by any stretch of the imagination.
Neither am I.
But, the environments that we described so far, at least in maybe the more extreme sense, and having lived in those environments, as I know you have too, and so many other people have, like you think about those days where it's like, man, rock in a hard place. It doesn't seem to matter what I do. Like it doesn't get any better. I got executives yelling at me from the top. I got leaders tugging on my legs. It's easy to find yourself in a position in these type of work worlds where I could easily see how you feel like you're at the end of your rope. Like you feel like you're at the end of it.
Yeah, you got injured, and now all of a sudden you're stuck with the opioid addiction.
You're stuck with an opioid addiction, yeah.
Or you've been away from home for 3 weeks and you miss your family, but no one to talk to, and all that.
3
gets
weeks, 3
bottled up.
months. God knows how long it's been, right? And then you're dealing with a situation where you're going into work and you're going, this place is a circus. And the worst part is, it's not my circus, it's not my clowns. But I got to live with it. And I can't even tell people the truth. And I've got to manage information. And I dread coming here every day, but I've got to, at least for the next 6 months, until I hopefully get rolled out of here to another project that's better. Please, God, let the
Till
next
you
one be
drag
better.
up.
Please, God. Yeah, and, you're putting your name on the layoff list, first line. Pick me, please, first. Get me out of here, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of things. It's so easy, I think, to see. As complex as that issue is, it is so much more than we could probably ever go into right now. But if work sucks, it's just going to make whatever's going on that much worse. If coming to work and you feel like you're treated like a kid, and every time you go to work, you're walking around on eggshells because, my God, if my safety glasses are like 2 millimeters too low on my nose, I'm getting fired. Like, that's a miserable situation.
Yeah.
It's a miserable situation. So if you're already dealing with stuff and you're dealing with all the other stuff that you just described, the stuff that comes with being a bit of a road dog, right? Gone for 6 months, here and there. And my God, I thought I was getting 2 weeks off, but now I got to go over here for another year before I get to go home. You're dealing with all that stuff and a work environment that's not optimized for humans at all. It seems like some of these places we build it to just be torture chambers for people. More than optimized for people.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be optimized, just make it kind of not suck. That counts for something.
Yeah.
That has to count for something there, right? You think about those jobs that you've had where you've got that tyrannical boss, you're dealing with already work that's complex and complicated, you're dealing with problems, you're dealing with the issues, and all that stuff tends to kind of marry up, and then you're going, I really don't want to go here tomorrow, but I gotta. Yeah. I think that all that stuff tends to play together.
It really does. Wow. We went full circle. We started talking about Darrell's death, and inadvertently we ended up talking about Safety Sucks, your first book.
Yeah. That's been a minute ago now, man. Jeez.
Yeah, it really has. And I think that was maybe the last time that we actually had an interview together was
Probably
right around that time.
It's been a minute, man. Jeez.
It's been a long time. And we even tried to do a live stream with me and Sam playing music together. He's a guitarist.
That was fun,
I'm a drummer.
though. That was a good time.
Yeah. We ended up not having anybody.
We need to try some
we
more live
can.
stream stuff.
I'm in, and I am in. I want to.
Yeah, I'm starting up doing some Instagram live stuff. Not this week. I'm starting doing some next week. So
Nice.
if you're bored,
Oh yes. You know me.
if you're bored and you want to split screen on
I'm all in.
on Instagram,
Yeah.
it will probably be me and you again.
Yeah.
But we'll have a good time.
That's great. Yeah, you're the guys who introduced me to Run the Jewels, man.
I love Run the Jewels, man. I love Run the
So I
Jewels.
love it. So hey, everybody, I'm gonna ask Sam to tell you how to reach him and his good friend Darrell. So go ahead, tell everybody how to reach you.
Yeah, the easiest way to get a hold of me is just the Hop Nerd. That's the HOP nerd at gmail.com. If you're interested in any of the wacky fun stuff that I tend to do, you can find out more at the HOP, thehopnerd.com. We got all kinds of free resources and stuff over there you can download. If you have seen the videos, or if you haven't, if you do stumble across Darrell or any of the other kind of content and things that we make, I have to keep telling people this. I've said it like 1,000 times, but it's important. You can download all that stuff. So if you're looking for something wacky, something to throw in your presentation, you can throw Darrell in there. You can go over to the website. Those videos in the video player under the resources tab, they are for download. They are for you. Free. Just take them.
Nice.
One rule. Use them for good, not for evil. That's it. That's the only rule. And if you get a chance, and if you can put the Hop Nerd, a little credit, I don't mind, but not 100% required, right? But there's a ton of stuff over there. You can get time on my calendar. You can learn more, all that kind of cool stuff. And probably where I'm most active with content and things like that would be on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. So it's either Sam Goodman or the Hop Nerd, or you can follow both if this is the kind of stuff that you're into. And spend time, a lot of different organizations and people focused on humanizing their approaches to safety and beyond. Yeah. I'm a recovering safety pro at this point, Sheldon. I spend more time with quality people than I do with safety people. It's weird. I thought we were a weird bunch, man. Jeez.
No kidding. Wow, everybody. Sam Goodman, the Hop Nerd. Thank you for coming by and hanging out at your house
I know, man. Look
on
at
the
this.
show. So
Thanks for having me. It's always good to see you, man.
It is always good to see you. So everybody, just stop by, see Sam and all his social media, and tell him you heard him here on the Safety Consultant with Sheldon Primus show, and go get him.
That's a wrap for today's safety show. Remember, safety isn't just about hard hats and caution signs. It's about business smarts too. Thanks for joining us on the Safety Consultant Show with Sheldon Primus. Until next time, stay safe, stay savvy, and keep consulting like a boss. Go get 'em. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast or broadcast are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within the past hour, only examples. It should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the positions of the company. No part of this podcast or broadcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast or broadcast, Sheldon Primus.
This episode has been powered by Safety FM.